Alright, let's dive into a story that honestly, at first glance, seems pretty straightforward. It's about family, money, and that incredibly blurry line between helpful advice and downright responsibility. This is one of those classic AITAH posts that just spiraled, leaving everyone involved feeling totally justified and utterly wronged all at the same time. I remember reading it, thinking, oh man, this is going to be a bloodbath in the comments. And it absolutely was. Our original poster, let's call him Alex, he's A19M, pretty young, still figuring things out, but he dipped his toes into the world of trading for a few months. Now, when I say, dipped his toes, I mean he'd actually been pretty successful for a newbie. He was up about 15% on his investments. For someone his age with limited experience, that's a genuinely impressive start. He probably felt like a bit of a financial wizard, riding high on that initial success, and honestly, who wouldn't? Then there's his older sister, Sarah, a 22F. She's seen Alex's little streak of wins, probably heard him casually mention it, or maybe even brag a tiny bit, as younger brothers are wont to do. She probably saw him making what seemed like easy money, and naturally, she got curious. She had some savings, probably working hard for it, maybe even saving up for something specific, and she wanted to make it grow. Who can blame her? We all want our money to work for us, right? So, one day, she approaches him. She asks him, point blank, what should I do with my savings? It's a simple question, innocent enough, but it was the kind of question that, in hindsight, carried the weight of 1,000 future arguments. This was the moment everything pivoted. This was the spark that ignited a financial wildfire within their family, and Alex, without even realizing it, was about to pour a whole lot of gasoline on it. Alex, feeling confident, maybe even a little puffed up by his recent success, gives her his advice. He tells her, look into gold. It's generally stable and safer than most investments. Now, I want you to really focus on those words, generally stable, and safer than most. To a 19-year-old who's only known market gains, those words probably felt like solid, undeniable truth. To him, it wasn't reckless, it was just common knowledge. In his head, he wasn't dishing out professional financial planning. He was just sharing a basic principle. Gold is often seen as a safe haven asset, something people flock to when the market gets volatile. So, for him, telling his sister about gold wasn't about guaranteeing returns. It was about suggesting something that felt low risk, especially compared to, say, meme stocks or crypto. At the time, this felt like sound, brotherly advice, given with good intentions. He truly thought he was helping her. Sarah, trusting her younger brother's newfound trading prowess, took his advice to heart. On January 22nd, she made her first move. She bought some gold. We don't know the exact amount initially, but it was enough to get her foot in the door, enough to start that feeling of, I'm investing. She was probably feeling a mix of excitement and a little bit of nervousness, putting her hard-earned money on the line for the first time in this way. And wouldn't you know it, the market gods seemed to smile on her, at least for a little while. The price of gold went up, just a little bit, but enough. Enough to validate Alex's advice, enough to make Sarah feel good about her decision. That initial bump, that small win, it's a powerful drug in the world of investing. It boosts confidence, quiets doubts, and makes you feel like you're on the right track. That's probably what Sarah was feeling, a little thrill of success. Buoyed by this early success, by this feeling of validation, Sarah decided to double down. Just 5 days later, on January 27th, she bought more gold. This wasn't a small amount. She invested a total of $10,000. For a 22-year-old, $10,000 is often a significant portion, if not all, of their savings. This wasn't play money, this was real, important money. She was fully committed, fully bought into the idea that gold was her path to financial stability, maybe even growth. Now, I imagine Alex probably heard about this, maybe with a slight pang of something. Was it pride? A hint of unease? He probably thought, yeah, she's doing it right. Gold is stable, she's following the plan. But even as he felt that slight validation, I wonder if a tiny voice in his head, a voice of inexperience, just quietly whispered, 10,000 is a lot. But he probably shrugged it off. Gold is stable, right? What could go wrong? Well, here's where the story takes its inevitable turn. Right after Sarah made that big second investment, the market decided to remind everyone who was truly in charge. The price of gold dropped. Not a gentle dip, not a minor fluctuation, but a noticeable, stomach-churning plunge. For someone who just invested a significant chunk of their life savings based on the promise of stability, this was an absolute gut punch. The panic, as you can imagine, set in quickly for Sarah. This wasn't some abstract number on a screen for her. This was her money, dwindling before her eyes. She got really scared. And who do you think she called? Her brother, Alex, the financial guru, the one who told her gold was stable. She was probably frantic, her voice tight with fear, demanding answers. Alex, on his end, probably tried to reassure her, saying things like, it'll come back up, or, don't worry, these things happen. But internally, Alex was probably wrestling with his own discomfort. Stable doesn't mean it never drops, he knew that intellectually. But a 10% drop in a week? That's not exactly what most people picture when they hear stable. He might have felt a knot in his stomach, a sudden realization that his casual advice had led to a very real, very distressing situation for his sister. Was this crossing the line? He probably asked himself that, even if he didn't voice it. But the price kept dropping, adding fuel to Sarah's fear. Every tick down on the chart was a fresh wave of panic. She saw her $10,000 investment becoming $9,500, then $9,200, then $9,000. This was a lot of money for her, potentially money she needed for rent, for tuition, for her future. The fear of losing it all, of seeing her hard work evaporate, must have been overwhelming. The idea of holding long-term probably went right out the window in the face of such immediate and painful losses. So, on February 1st, after days of watching her investment bleed value, Sarah made a decision. A decision driven by pure, unadulterated fear. She sold everything, she cashed out, and when the dust settled, she had locked in a $1,000 loss. Think about that for a moment. $1,000. Gone, just like that, because of advice she'd taken from her brother, because of a market drop, and because of her own panic reaction. That sting of loss, that feeling of regret, it must have been immense. The immediate aftermath for Sarah must have been a whirlwind of emotions. Shock, yes, but quickly followed by anger. Anger at herself for selling, anger at the market, and most pointedly, anger at Alex. She probably felt betrayed, tricked. He said, stable, and she lost $1,000. That felt anything but stable to her. The raw pain of that loss was probably all she could focus on. Alex, meanwhile, heard about the sale. He probably felt a mix of sympathy for her loss, but also a sense of frustration. She chose to sell, he reasoned. He never told her to sell. He told her gold was stable, implying a long-term view, not a day-to-day panic button. He probably thought, well, that was her decision to lock in the loss. A part of him probably felt a little justified, that her impulsiveness was the real culprit here. And here's the kicker, the truly cruel twist of fate that often happens in these stories. Right after Sarah sold, after she locked in that painful $1,000 loss, the price of gold went back up. Not just a little, but enough to now be higher than when she first bought it. Imagine the sinking feeling, the gut-wrenching realization that if she had just waited a few more days, if she had held on, she wouldn't have lost a dime. In fact, she might have even made a profit. That knowledge, that what if, is a special kind of torment. This, of course, absolutely pushed Sarah over the edge. She didn't just feel angry anymore, she felt furious. Incensed. She confronted Alex, probably in a heated exchange, her voice trembling with indignation. The air between them would have been thick with accusation and hurt. The initial helpful advice had now become a weapon, aimed squarely at Alex. Her argument was simple, direct, and emotionally charged. You tricked me, she accused him. You called gold stable, but it dropped 10% in a week. That's not stable. She hammered home the point that she wouldn't have invested that much money, that she wouldn't have taken such a huge personal risk, if he hadn't made it sound so low risk. In her mind, his words were a guarantee, a promise that he had failed to uphold. Alex, trying to defend himself, tried to explain. He reiterated, probably calmly at first, then with rising frustration, that she chose to sell when it was down. He argued, reasonably enough, that stable doesn't mean the price never drops. It means it generally doesn't have wild, unpredictable swings like some other assets. It was a semantic argument, perhaps, but one he felt was crucial to his innocence. He felt he was being unfairly blamed for her actions. But Sarah wasn't hearing any of it. The pain of the loss, compounded by the agony of missing the recovery, overshadowed any nuanced financial explanations. Her next demand was the real bombshell. She wanted him to pay her back the $1,000. She genuinely felt he owed her. He gave the advice, she lost money, therefore, he was responsible. This completely blindsided Alex, turning a tense discussion into a full-blown family crisis. Alex's reaction to that demand must have been one of sheer disbelief. Pay her back? For her own investment decisions? For selling prematurely? It felt utterly unfair, an unthinkable request. He probably felt insulted, like she was holding him personally responsible for market fluctuations, for a decision she made. The very idea of it was probably infuriating, sparking a deeper resentment within him. And then, as often happens in family dramas involving money, Mom got involved. Someone brought her into it, perhaps Sarah seeking an ally, or perhaps Alex seeking mediation. Whatever the catalyst, Mom, the impartial arbiter, stepped in to deliver her judgment. This was probably a tense family meeting, or a series of strained phone calls. Mom's verdict was swift and unequivocal. Alex was the asshole. Her reasoning was simple. You gave financial advice you weren't qualified to give, and it ended up costing your sister money. To Mom, the outcome was the defining factor. It didn't matter if his intentions were good, or if his advice had a disclaimer in his mind. The fact was, her daughter lost money, and her son had been the one to point her in that direction. End of story. Hearing that from his own mother, being called an asshole for trying to help, for sharing what he thought was good advice, must have been a bitter pill for Alex to swallow. He probably felt completely misunderstood, unfairly judged. He probably wrestled with the shame and guilt, but also with a defiant sense of injustice. Was he really the asshole? He just told her about gold. People talk about investments all the time. So, feeling utterly bewildered, caught between his sister's anger and his mother's judgment, Alex did what many in his situation do. He turned to the internet. He wrote that Reddit post, probably late at night, under a throwaway account, pouring out the whole story, laying it bare for thousands of strangers to dissect. He wanted to know, truly, sincerely, was he the asshole for calling gold stable? He needed an outside perspective, desperately. And as you can imagine, when that post hit Reddit, the comments section absolutely exploded. There were a ton of initial reactions, a mixed bag. Some commenters immediately sided with the sister, expressing sympathy for her loss. They saw a young woman trusting her brother, losing money, and that just felt inherently wrong. They probably echoed the mom's sentiment, don't give financial advice if you're not qualified. But then came the more nuanced takes. People started picking apart the definition of stable. They pointed out that stable doesn't mean never drops. It means it's less volatile than many other things. They debated the difference between advising someone to look into something versus telling them what to do. It was a semantic battleground, but an important one for Alex, as it validated his internal defense. Of course, there was the loud chorus of NTA, but seriously, don't give financial advice to family or friends unless you're a licensed professional. This was a huge theme. Many commenters emphasized that even well-intentioned advice, when it involves money, can destroy relationships. The Reddit community, in its wisdom, often highlights the sacred boundary that financial matters create within families. Another significant point that came up was the concept of paper hands versus diamond hands. Commenters highlighted that Sarah's decision to sell at a loss, rather than hold on and weather the storm, was a critical factor. She exhibited classic paper hands behavior, panicking and selling, only to regret it later. Many argued that while Alex suggested the investment, Sarah made the decision to buy, to sell, and to panic. Her personal responsibility couldn't be ignored. Alex, seeing these comments, probably felt a rush of vindication from some, and a sting of truth from others. He posted edits to clarify details, maybe adding that he never forced her, or that he actually tried to tell her to hold. These edits weren't just for the Reddit audience. They were part of his own processing, his attempt to make sense of the overwhelming blame. He was really caught in the middle. On one side, his sister's very real, tangible financial loss and her anger. On the other, his mother's firm, authoritative judgment. And in his own head, his sense of fairness, his feeling that he hadn't done anything malicious. It was a truly isolating position, feeling like everyone was against him, despite his good intentions. What would you even do in that situation? The entire situation also opened up a wider discussion on financial literacy. Many commenters pointed out that Sarah, as a 22-year-old adult, had a responsibility to do her own research, to understand what she was investing in, and to manage her own risk. Relying solely on a 19-year-old brother's advice, no matter how confident he seemed, was a risky move on her part. This wasn't just about Alex, it was about personal accountability. And beyond the money, this whole saga was fundamentally impacting their family dynamics. The trust between siblings was shattered, probably the trust between Alex and his mom was strained too. Money has a way of revealing the fault lines in relationships, doesn't it? It can turn a simple interaction into a lasting grudge, making holidays and family gatherings awkward and tense. Alex probably spent countless hours replaying the scenario in his head. What if he had never said anything? What if he had just told her to go to a professional? What if he had emphasized the risks more, even with gold? The what if game is a cruel one, especially when real money and real relationships are on the line. He probably felt a heavy weight of guilt, despite his logical arguments. The lingering tension between him and his sister was palpable, I'm sure. Every conversation would have been tinged with the unspoken $1,000, a phantom debt hanging over their heads. It wasn't just about the money anymore, it was about the perceived betrayal, the broken trust, the feeling of being wronged. And his mom's pressure. That's a whole different kind of burden. When your mom tells you you're the it's hard to shake. It makes you doubt yourself, your judgment, your character. Even if he disagreed, her words would have resonated deeply, perhaps fostering a sense of resentment towards both his mom for siding against him, and his sister for instigating it all. So, the situation sat unresolved, festering. Would Alex ever pay her back? Would Sarah ever drop her demand? Would their relationship ever recover? It was a stalemate, fueled by hurt feelings, stubborn pride, and $1,000. The potential for reconciliation seemed distant, overshadowed by the fresh wound of financial loss and blame. The core moral question here, then, boils down to this. When you offer advice, however well-intentioned, and someone acts on it to their detriment, are you financially responsible for their loss? Even if they made the ultimate decision? It's a question that plagues many friendships and family relationships, and there's rarely a clear-cut answer. So, where did it all land? Well, the post didn't offer a definitive resolution, which is typical for these kinds of AITAH situations. It was more about seeking validation than an actual solution. The $1,000 loss remained, the anger persisted, and the sibling bond was undoubtedly strained. Sometimes there isn't a neat ending to these messes. Overall, Reddit's judgment was pretty split, leaning heavily towards everyone sucks here, or NTA but a harsh lesson learned. Many agreed Alex wasn't strictly obligated to pay, but he definitely messed up by giving unqualified advice. And Sarah? She was judged for her lack of personal research and for panicking, but also for demanding payment. The takeaway from this whole debacle, for Alex and for anyone listening, is a really crucial one about boundaries and personal accountability. Always be cautious when giving financial advice, especially to family. Even with the best intentions, the outcomes can be catastrophic for relationships. And as for the person receiving the advice, do your own damn homework. This wasn't just about $1,000, it was about the fragile nature of trust within a family, and how quickly it can erode under financial pressure. It's a stark reminder that some things, like money advice, are best left to professionals, or at the very least, approached with extreme caution and clear disclaimers. So, in the end, what do you think? Was Alex, the 19M, truly the asshole for calling gold stable, leading his 22F sister to a $1,000 loss? Or was this a case of bad luck, bad timing, and a lack of personal responsibility? I'd love to hear your judgment.